All right, good afternoon, everyone. Very happy to be able to take this opportunity today to talk to you about MillerCoors. It is fun. And so as I kind of go through this, sometimes it sounds a little chaotic. It means we do have opportunities, but it's definitely fun. I wanted to first of all let you all know kind of how we're structured a little bit because I get that question quite a bit. In fact, even this morning in one of the sessions, someone asked me about the relationship between Miller and Coors. So I think that it'll be worth you understanding why we did what we did with our former rival. And then I'll go into the Albany Brewery operations a little bit. A lot of it is very similar to what you've heard previously from the other guests on the panel, and probably things that you're also experiencing in your own business. Okay, about SAB and the Molson joint venture. SAB, South African Breweries, was founded in 1895. Currently, their headquarters is in London. And the Molson Coors Company was founded in 1798, I believe, in Canada. Like I said, formerly competitors, right? Well, in 2008, the two companies decided to take their U.S. Assets and put them together in a joint venture to service the United States and Puerto Rico business to gain synergies, primarily transportation synergies. Both companies still own their daughter business groups, if you will. So MillerCoors is not traded anywhere. Miller is still a part of SAB, and Coors is still a part of Molson Coors. But the profits generated from the joint venture are split between the two parent companies. And the two companies have equal voting rights. Miller, or SAB Miller, has 58% of the financial investment, and Molson has 42%. So hope that's clear as mud. But basically, we had to get in bed to compete with some people bigger than we are. All right, so basically, this is kind of what the network looked like prior to the joint venture. The one on your left was the former Coors distribution network. And the one on the bottom right, obviously, was Miller. Miller was operating six major breweries, as well as three smaller breweries for our craft lines, Line and Kugel, Plank Road. And to kind of zoom in a little bit on the Coors side, all of the red dots that you see are actually distribution centers. And there were only, at the time, two major production facilities. You had, actually, for a long time, there was only one. You had a 22 million barrel brewery out in Golden that didn't ship east of the Mississippi River for a long time, Smoking the Bandit. I know I'm dating myself. And then for a long time, they actually tanked beer across the country to Shenandoah, Virginia, where they packaged it. Since then, we've built about an 8 million barrel per year brewery over there, so we can actually produce and package there. So now, let me just go back for a second. Basically, every dot is a distributorship. We work through a three-tier system. We sell to distributors who sell to retailers. So if you don't have a line going directly to a green dot, it had to go to a red dot and then back out under this configuration. So it was really in Coors' interest to set something up like this. In the meantime, Coors Light brand is on fire, so it was also very good for Miller to be able to join up with them at this time. So this is what our current distribution network looks like. Excuse me. And by kind of reconfiguring this, we moved in the first 2 years about 10 million barrels of production closer to where the distributors were, closer to the final consumer base. Not without growing pains, because we found out that even though beer is about 90% water, beer is not beer. It's not all the same. The yeast is the same, not the same. Different flavoring types are not the same. We tried to standardize our water as much as possible, but I will tell you that we learned a lot about making beer when we tried to put these two brands in the same breweries. We didn't, even things like in Golden, they use copper kettles. We use stainless steel kettles. Who knew that the flavoring from the copper was going into the beer? And then we had to get creative because we're not going to install copper kettles. Can't tell you what that secret is, but some really smart people figured it out. And actually, we have one of the highest taste test scores for any of the breweries that produce Coors Light right now. I know our brewing manager would like me to brag on that. We are 9.8 at the last score. 10.0 is perfect, and it's actually higher than Golden right now. And that's with the Coors people tasting it. People whose last name is Coors scored it higher. So get your beer out of Albany, Georgia, because we do it right. But it's all good. When we did this transformation, we actually reduced the average shipping distance. I think it went from 480 to 350, roughly. Now, that still includes doing a lot of business across some of those lines. In the Albany Brewery, for example, we did ship all 50 states last year. And that's because we make some package configurations, brand configurations that no one else makes. So we would either ship it directly to a state and have it distributed from there, or we would ship it to the distributors. In the meantime, this is just kind of what the layout looks like in terms of where our capacity is. Most of the Miller 6, which they used to call them, were built in 10 million barrel increments. Somebody in the beer business a long time ago figured out that's about the right size to have the appropriate distribution of about 200 miles radius to drop the beer. You'll see slight variations above and below that, and that's primarily due to mix. It could either be equipment, line time, beers that have more flavorings in them, beers that have higher alcohol content. So these kinds of things will kind of make your capacity on a year-in, year-out basis be a little bit fluctuating. This is an old slide, but this showed what the complexity was of bringing these two very proud, very heritage-bound organizations that were still maintaining their founders' name together. So this shows, the complexity of the buildings and the brands and where we're shipping things and trying to get the packages right. And this one uses a 202 end, and somebody else uses a 204 end. It has to have a wide mouth. All of those things. And imagine we also had very different operating systems, very different profiles in terms of how we serviced our distributors, what the order patterns looked like. We were using different pallets. Somebody didn't talk about that before we got together. And so there were just a lot of things that were going on. And then to add to it, you had some very, very legacy people who are very, very tied to their organizations. So you're trying to really say, hey, guess what? We're all together now. And I've been with MillerCoors now for 4 years. And it's easy for me to pick up a Coors Light, but there are people in our brewery that still won't drink it, and vice versa. There are people that are still, they still go they and them, and I'm like, it's us. So I think we'll only get better going forward as people start either letting go of those old paradigms or move on. I would be remiss if I didn't stop for a second and just share with you the approved legal alcohol drinking consumer refreshment list. Actually, you see our flagship brands in the front, the Coors Light, the Miller Lite, but we have a very expansive portfolio between the two organizations, Molson Coors and MillerCoors. On your left, most of these are actually imports. So we have several import lines. We have an energy beer, we have the Swing Top Grolsch, we have economy brands, we have super premium brands, and we have right now the craft lines that are doing very well for us. The Blue Moon is doing exceptional. Leinenkugel seasonals have been doing very well for us. And so we've been very, very fortunate to have such a wide variety to try to reach out to a lot of different consumer and meet different consumer tastes. So people who thought they didn't like beer, and I've met a few, most of the times I can find something on this list they'll drink. So just through the sampling process.